Hello everyone, I've just returned from the Stop the Coup protest in Northampton. It's one of many of which have happened across the nation today. It's the left's attempt at trying to stop Boris Johnson from proroguing Parliament. They ironically say they're defending democracy whilst shouting stop Brexit. I went to ask a few questions so I could gather a bit more of an understanding as to their position, what this means to them and to democracy, and also their comprehension of the prorogation of Parliament and why the decision had been made. Upon my arrival, a few of the protesters had recognised me from last week's event, the Extinction Rebellion protest, which you can watch in the link below, my video in the link below. This led to a rise of suspicion throughout the crowd over my presence, and ultimately a number of people objecting to being recorded and refusing to answer any questions put forward. Around 30 minutes later, I had to make adjustments to my camera, and at this point I was approached by an officer who asked me to stop recording and asking the protesters questions, as this could, in his words, be antagonising and could lead to a further dispute. I stated to him that there's no laws prohibiting me from recording in public, and that the protesters and crowd bystanders have every right to refuse to answer any questions, and if they do so, then I can just move on my merry way. The officer wasn't too happy about this, and there was nothing he could do, so he just left me to it. That was the end of him. Around 15 minutes after that, I went to speak to a few people and bystanders, and as I was, the protesters decided to shout their slurs and silly chants, and one of the protesters actually shoved his face into my camera and screamed whilst I was speaking to a bystander, and the bystander was not impressed, needless to say. And although I and others know that this sort of behaviour is all too common amongst the so-called tolerable left, and that these people regularly act like petulant little children. However, it's time for the left to grow up and to stop shutting down civil discourse, as this is really not helpful. It really isn't. It's really not helpful at all. With that being said, today's events appeared less about the prorogation of Parliament and more to do with stopping Brexit. As we are all aware, the left have some vision of some sort of doom which awaits the UK upon exiting the EU. We also know that they want to stop Brexit and get Jeremy Corbyn into number 10 so that they can start implementing this vision of a utopian socialism. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I digress. There was around 50 to 60 attendees. There was placards ranging from socialist worker to LGBTQ++. Also, there was defend democracy. There was one that said or read, Hitler did this in 1933. So they were comparing Boris Johnson to Hitler. I'll leave that one with you, people. I'll leave that one with you. The whole event only lasted about an hour. So at this point, I went and spoke with the co-organiser of the event. His name is Pat. I asked him about his thoughts on today's events and how he thought and his opinions on Boris Johnson proroguing Parliament. He said that he was happy with the turnout and the way that the event had gone ahead at short notice, and that Boris Johnson was just abusing his powers to force through a no-deal Brexit and crash out of the EU. I asked him if he was aware on Jacob Rees-Mogg's first Order of the House speech that Valerie Vaz, the shadow leader of the House, asked Jacob Rees-Mogg when this session of Parliament will end and a new one will begin. And for a new session of Parliament to begin, there are constitutional requirements that include, but not limited to, the Prorogation of Parliament and the Queen's speech. He didn't really have an answer to this. He said that it's not relevant and that Boris Johnson was just abusing his powers to crash out of the EU. So I said, Boris Johnson is executing the will of Parliament and upholding democracy, is he not? And there was no answer from this. He said there was no relevance. So I will be uploading all of the content from today. It will be up in the next 2, maybe 3 days. Until then, by standing in the way of truth and justice, you will surely be struck to your knees, begging for mercy. Thank you for watching. Stand on your own 2 feet.